Alrighty, that about does it all. Get started anyway. Some other people might trickle in as we go, but they'll they won't miss too much from the intro. So yeah, thanks gents, thanks everyone for joining me. Appreciate you being here. The power of data, streamlining workflows with Bluebeam Revu. That's our topic today. So basically, for like a quick overview, we're kind of just looking at the side of Bluebeam that manages that metadata within that takeoff sort of information, maybe depending on what you want to use it for. It is quite broad, so I won't restrict it to just takeoffs, but that's probably more where this stuff is useful anyway. Grabbing data out of Bluebeam, out of the tables, out of the PDF, and turning it from 2D to something that we can use in Excel or estimate off of. Many options available to us, but that's the overall theme. I'll just go through to begin with a bit of an introduction just about us. So if you are familiar or not with our class, we're Bluebeam's #1 platinum partner, massive throughout Europe and the rest of the world as of recently, but here in Australia with the Bluebeam team specifically. I'd like to sort of use this slide just as an opportunity to talk about like the licensing side. And if you do get Bluebeam licenses through us, like you get extended support for that sort of stuff. So these sort of webinars, training sessions, all sorts of things like that, we do provide that service if you have your license through us. So, any questions, any sort of technical issues you're having, we have a ticket system. You can log tickets, ask, request support, that sort of stuff. So we provide all that for you. Hey, it's there if you need it. And again, so like I said, our class like established in 2018, but we specifically for us on the Bluebeam side of Australia, the leading platinum partner, but sort of new things coming with regards to Europe, America, and India. Now, topic 1. So I'll get straight into it. There's no point, sitting around wasting your time. Let's get straight into the nuts and guts of it. So takeoff legends and how we get there. So this first topic I'll sort of do as like a talk through of how to get a specific sort of result. So this example is takeoffs, but the same process will work for many other things. So just going to show you guys how to get to this end goal, which is a legend that's telling us materials, costs, quantities of flooring types. So I'm going to use that as my example. It works for other types of things. I'm going to give you all the steps you need to get there so you can use this process anywhere. Basically, we'll see how it works. What we need to get there at the bottom. So we've got the tool chests that we need to achieve this result. And like the reason I put that in there is because garbage in, garbage out. We're talking about data. If you set up your tool chests and things properly in the beginning, you can continue to use them throughout the project, and it'll automatically update your legends, and it'll keep things going real nice and smooth for you. So it's an important point to touch on. Let's kick straight into the program. So this is our example. This is what we're going to aim for. It may not look as nice because I don't want to waste time creating really nice looking patterns to stare at. We want to get the actual valuable information out of this lesson, not just I could sit here for hours drafting, making it look pretty. That's what we're going to have when we've finished. Wipe it and sort of start from the beginning. So the first step, like I said, is actually to make the tool chest we need for the task. So looking at the plan, we've sort of got, timber, maybe carpet, tile, flooring, that sort of thing. We're going to cost and price those ones up. We go to our tool chest panel on the side. For those that aren't familiar, the tool chests allow you to save tons of presets for things. So even as simple as a tool chest for engineer review, for example, if we change to detailed view, you can see more information about it. It's got a subject name. When I click on that tool, it lets me place it with certain properties attached to it. And then the same if I go to my architecture view, I can then place that comment, and it's placing, or there we go, contractor architect. It's placing that comment with that information in there. When I go to my markups list at the bottom, which is this blue bar, it'll sort of highlight when you put your mouse down the bottom. If I pop that up to the top, my markups list is actually tracking everything that I place in Bluebeam at all times. So you can see it under here, the subject headers, because the markups come from the tool chest and have the correct name attached. That's why it's actually coming up as architect in my markups list, and I can track them all that way. That's just a bit of background knowledge for sort of how this is sort of working. But if we go back to where we want to be, get rid of these. We'll make our own tool chest specifically for this task. So start from the top in our tool chest panel, go to our tool chest drop-down box, and click manage. We're going to then add another one at the bottom right and call it flooring takeoff. Sweet, nothing new there. The next thing is we have to just save this somewhere. So for now, I'm just going to chuck it on my desktop, being a bit dodgy. That's how I do things. But that's done as is. So that is now appearing at the bottom. You can see the path there is showing me where that tool chest is saved to. It's pretty important if you want to share these around. So you can create these tool chests and then actually export them from your program. So say like the same one I've just made or a previous one, maybe my furniture tool chest, I want to share that with somebody else. I can click export from here, save it to somewhere on my computer, and then flick that file over to them. Alternatively, if I've got a file sitting around with tools in it, I can click import and go and find where that tool chest is, that one, and open that one up, and it'll actually load it in. Nothing in those two, but for now we'll work on the one that we've just made. Let's collapse some of the unnecessary stuff here. Flooring takeoff, that's what we're going to be working. That's what we're going to make our example from. So to start, basically what a tool chest is, it's just a collection of other tools. So you sort of start with the tool that you want to use at the bottom or the base. Under tools, drop down box and measure, all the tools are here as well. For us, we're calculating flooring areas, so we're going to use the area tool. No great surprises there, I don't think. For now, we'll just click and drag over a specific area. What we want to do then is apply all the properties to this tool that we want to save. So anything visual, for example, to be a bit different, I might just do all my takeoff mockups in purple this time around. Try something a bit fancy. Why not? Do purple and light blue for my text. A quick tip while we're here, you'll see sometimes when you place markups, the text will appear in the middle over the top of the text in the drawing. It's a bit awkward. And if you try and move it around, it moves the whole markup sometimes. To move just the text itself, we want to use the shift sort of function. So if I hold shift on my keyboard and then click and drag it, I can move just the text without moving the whole markup around like that. Just a quick tip while we're there. Sweet. And then from there, like the other thing you might want to do is add a bit of a hatch pattern to make it sort of real obvious what we're looking at. Might just use horizontal lines to represent our timber flooring in this case. Change them to purple up here. And sort of just customize everything at the top until it suits what we want it to look like. The lines are a bit abrasive, so again, we can just go a bit further, change the pattern to be a bit smaller with that function just there. I forget what it's called, like the scaling, hatch scale. And the last thing, maybe just it's a bit too bright. So if we click on the highlight tool, the drawing up from up below will be more visible, and we can increase the opacity or reduce the opacity. So it's a bit more see-through and doesn't have much of an effect. It's cool, but that looks like exactly how I want it to look. But now I need to add it to my tool chest and give it some properties when it's in there. So just right click on the markup we've made with everything as we want it to be, add that to our tool chest, flooring takeoff, just with a right click. It'll ask us to lock the tool set. So that now locks it, meaning that the tool chest that we've saved, as in the file on our desktop, is now sort of disconnected from the program. So once we are finished with all of our changes, we want to make sure we sort of unlock it and click on the cogwheel here to save it when it's all saved, nice and done there. But we're unlocking it so we can keep using it, keep making changes to it. So from there, yep. Now we have our markup in there. You'll see when I click on it and try and use it, it drags it across in the exact same shape and size as when I saved it. You can double click on it. That'll change it to properties mode, which means I can use it as a tool instead. So now I can click and drag and draw with it. I don't want to do that yet. I want to make sure I go to my drop down box and click detail. So at the moment, it's just the subject is just generically area measurement. So I need to change this specifically to tell me it's timber flooring. That way, when I do place that tool, and I'll have to redraw that one because it's not made properly. Now that this has the subject correct, I can use this, fill in the same space. Now I've got my tool covering that area. Move that text. So the benefit then of that, when we crack our markups list back open again, just from the bottom, go to the top. We'll filter by date, so I don't have to look for too hard for what I'm after. Just date downwards, so I'm seeing the latest markups only. And there we go. Sure enough, the one we just placed is at the top, labeled as timber flooring with the comment there being a square meterage. Rather than in comments, I actually want the column that tells me the area. So to customize which columns we're seeing in our markups list, I'll just click on the drop-down box at the top, click columns, and I can turn any of the custom ones on as they are here. So typically area is probably what I want. We can also do volume just to see how that works. While I'm looking at it, may as well have that data in there. For this markup specifically, I'll add at the top the depth that I want. So under the units column here, we can go down and find depth. And under meters, we're going to call 2.4 for a typical ceiling height. And then bang, we're actually calculating the volume of that room as well. Cool. Not what we need today, but just to show you it's there. There it is. Now we've got the timber flooring tool ready to go. We can go through the entire project and place that everywhere that timber flooring exists. Now, that's going to be a bit tedious for some of these other rooms, right? So, it's not a perfect square, so I have to go around and click the sort of exterior and then maneuver my way around the wardrobe, clicking individual points until I get the whole room done how I need it done. But there is a quicker way. So if you do have a Bluebeam complete, we can use something called dynamic fill, which can actually make this process a bit easier for us. So under tools and measure, we've got dynamic fill. So again, this is a complete feature, but for those of you that have it, let's have a quick look. Two main things. Here's our bar at the top. This is our tool. We've got the boundaries and the fill. So for boundaries, this place is basically a region that the dynamic fill won't go past. I want to just reduce that boundary size so it's a bit more workable. If I increase it, you can see it's pretty massive, but I want it a bit smaller so I can do some finer detail. So I want to specifically dynamic fill this room. So I'll put a boundary on that doorway because I don't want to measure past that doorway. Great, so now that the boundary is in place, we can start filling in. So get the paint tool out, we can increase the size of that tool, or the fill size, sorry, to fill more at once. And we can make it fill faster or slower. We'll keep the sensitivity on high. We'll see how we go. So fill that in. And you can see it fills in the room. It doesn't go past these lines though. So that line from the section header is cut through the drawing, but if we just put the edge of our tool past that line, it'll correct that. And the same for this wardrobe. We want to fill the wardrobe as well in the same go. So we can just fill it in there. So that green represents the area we've got. Now to actually make that a tool, we just click on any of these. So we can use it to measure the perimeter. We can also use the area, which is what we want. We'll use the drop-down box though, because this will actually let us select any of our tools. So if we go down to flooring, take off and select timber flooring, that will then be able to apply that and it'll actually put the markup exactly as intended where it needs to go. I might just do that again, but I'll really just rapidly fill in all these instead of doing them room by room. Just do the whole thing at once. Bang, like pretty quick. That's a bit, it's a bit of an error there, but we can actually post filling in, add the boundary. So if I add the boundary, you can see it cuts off that area, and I can fill in what it needs to go. So that's corrected that mistake there. And the same here, the ensuite's already been measured, so I just want to add the boundary back in to stop it from filling past where it's supposed to be, and then fix that. Bang. Cool. So that's done. We'll select what we want before, go down to timber flooring, and apply it. There we go. Pretty quick. Now we've measured the whole building without having to go around clicking every individual little point. So much better. Cool. So from that same sort of process, like maybe what we want to do is actually measure some tile as well. We've got some areas that are probably going to be tile. So if you do want to update or add other tools, it's easier rather than starting from the beginning like we did. You can just create a copy of the tool we used and then change the things that we need to change about it. So if we add this to the tool chest again, so we've got a duplicate. So these are both the same tool effectively. we can now customize them while they're in the tool chest. So to do that, we just have to split our screens a bit. So we're going to move our interface around so we can see two things at once. So I've got the properties panel here. I want to select my tool chest and have both of them open at once. So I'll drag my properties panel and you'll see this little dial appears and I'll split it downwards. So that way I've got those two open. The markups list is taking up a bit of view. It's looking a bit squished, so I can actually click on the arrows here to send the markups list to the side and give me more room for my bars on the side here. So from that, we can actually now use them in conjunction. So I'll select the tool chest up here. And when I click on either of these, I can now edit the tool while it's in the tool chest. So for the second one, we want to rename this one to be not timber flooring, but tile flooring. We can actually add a label in here as well. If you wanted to represent that in the drawing, I'll show you what that looks like. We'll add tile there. If we go down, so we just want to change a couple of things. The hatching, we want to use maybe like squares or some sort of squares. Diagonal brick maybe kind of works, I guess. Or the grid, but probably the best one. So we'll change the pattern, we'll change the name, and that's probably good enough. That's probably all we need. We can then just click and drag the floor area here. And all of a sudden, bang, we've got our markups on there. Tile 2.18 square meters. So that's what that label did. It's got the text on the drawing itself with us now. Just there. Sweet, but there you go. So now you can see it's pretty quick actually to, once you've created like your first one, you can add new ones pretty quickly using that sort of method. But so that being done, I'll just fill in the rest of this living room. Say this is all timber as well. Fill that in. You'll see like, because of the way the tool works, even if I added a boundary here, it might sort of not work because it's completely enveloped. Just to correct that, instead of sort of fiddling around in here, it's a lot easier to just use what we want to do, called timber. Boundary will be from the laundry upwards. We don't want to fill in that whole area. We'll click apply. That'll put the timber everywhere, but we want to correct this mistake here. So the better tool for that outside of dynamic fill would be under measure. We can actually do a cutout, so a polygon cutout, and create that region. So it's not part of our measurement anymore. So we'll just click each point around this little area. And bang, that's removed it from our measurement. I made a bit of a mistake. It's a bit cattywampus. Just line it back up, it'll snap into place. And yeah, there you go. So that's actually cut out that little area. It's not being measured anymore. Keeps it nice and accurate. Cool. So from there, we've measured, 90% of what we want to measure. Maybe we should probably make this bathroom tile if we were caring, but we sort of get the idea. I'm just showing you the tools of how to make that legend like we had before. We can do that now and update it as we want. So we'll start by making what we have, which is just a legend, a new legend, place it down, and it's got timber flooring on there. To add other things to the legend, just have to find where they sort of are hiding. So the tile, for example, we right click on it, click legend again, and then instead of create new, the one we made actually appears there labeled, click legend. Now we've got both of the tools we've made and everything we've measured added up into our quantity here. We can customize these legends quite a bit. So go to our properties panel, which is now split down the bottom side here. We can give it a name. So maybe the takeoff or flooring takeoff legend, more specifically as necessary. That makes it easier to find when you're adding stuff to the legend. It's good to have a custom name so you know which one you're adding it to. Now under our columns, we can edit these columns. This is basically the same as our markups list in a way. It's all the same columns here. It's just the information we want in the legend specifically. So maybe over some of these things, we want to add area instead. And we want to use these arrows to change where along that it's going to actually appear. So if we push this all the way to the top, rather than the term quantity, like I'm not sure that's really accurate. Area is probably better. Click and update that, we can see it comes under area now. So how do we then do what we had in our original example? So if we go back to our PowerPoint, we've got a legend, we've got materials, and it's actually calculating cost as well. So how do we get to that stage? Well, those columns don't come with Bluebeam standard. They actually are customized and made specifically for the task. So how do we do that? Simply put, like, go to where we find our custom columns and we make them. Just under our drop-downs list, we go to columns here, and at the bottom of this little area, there's manage columns. So that's under the markups list, columns, manage. So these create our columns here. If we want to, we can actually reorder how they appear in our markups list itself. But for us, what we're trying to do is come over to custom columns. So we've got material and cost. I'm going to leave them as they are and just sort of, well, actually, yeah, it's might be a bit confusing. Let's just can them. We'll make them again, because otherwise there'll be two floating around them. We'll have a bit of grief, I think. So there we go, delete them, they're gone. Columns, manage, custom, add. So we're going to add new columns to this process. So the first one is material. And that's just the name of the column. That's how it's going to appear at the bottom here. Under type, this actually dictates what sort of data is held in it. So the options, we've got checkmark, choice, data, date, formula, number, and text. So pretty simple. Number means you can put any numbers in there. Text means you can fill in any numbers. The one we want for material, though, is a choice option. So for this, that means that that column is restricted to specific sort of options that we create. That's why in here, we want to create all of our different material types. So the two we're using, we've got timber and tile for this example. So we'll add at the bottom a new option. So this item will be timber. Subject will be timber flooring or whatever. We can add additional context in there if we want to. But in that, we need to click assign numeric value for it to be useful in a calculation. We can use these choices and selections just for the data alone if that's all you're interested in, but we're going to use it to actually calculate the cost. So for us, the numeric value we attach to our timber flooring has to be referenceable sort of to how we're going to calculate it. So jumping ahead, when we create our calculation column, we're going to call that cost. We're going to multiply the area by the cost of the timber flooring. So let's say the timber flooring is something per square meter, right? So just to throw a random figure out there, let's say it's $5 a square meter. That's what we're going to use, the number 5. Add another option. This one's going to be tile. Tile flooring as the subject, same as the markup. Assign numeric value, and this is maybe $7 a square meter. I don't know. Don't quite literally, don't quote me. Anyway, now that's created those two options, we can stick those into our markups list and we can use them on our tools. So, okay, click OK there. That material options now, that's a column sort of exists and ready to go. We'll add another one. So this one's then going to be our cost column. We'll call that cost, and we're going to choose formula, and we can then create any expression. So from here, you just fill in all the data you want. When you start to type something, it'll come up with the heading you're using. So we're going to type in area. That'll find the variable area. And we just click enter from that. We want to then multiply area by the cost. Wait, this is the cost formula. We want to area by material. That's what I meant. There we go. Multiply the area by the material. If we wanted to make it a bit less confusing, we might call material like square meterage, square meter cost or something, so we actually know everything. But area by material, that's what we're doing here. I can go, a bit further if I want to, just for the sake of the example, like put the brackets around it and then multiply it by like 1.1 to get a 10% overage. You could then add, other sort of data into there. If you have like a labor cost, you can multiply it by a percentage of that. But I digress. It's a formula. You can do infinite things in here. Now that's both of those are done. Click OK, and they'll pop up here on the side. Nothing's filling in yet because we haven't actually added the data we need. So I ran ahead and drew all of these markups onto my plan before I assigned them their value. So now I have to go to my markups list and go to material, select, the drop down box for timber, and assign that to every individual markup. That's why, setting up your tool chests, it's good to do that first and have everything set up perfectly first. So create your custom columns, set it up first. But the reason I did it the dodgy way this time, so you can see how to fix it, because everything can sort of be corrected in here if you know how to use your markups list anyway. So we'll go to the subject heading and just filter by subject. And then we can grab all of our timber flooring markups we've already placed. And then, oh, that didn't work as I wanted it to. Well, I thought some things you can select and change them all at once. Apparently, the drop-down boxes are a bit harder. The example I was trying to get to is if you do need to make a correction afterwards, like under color here, if we select them all and then have our properties panel open on the side, and this should work actually this way. The properties panel has all of these markups selected, so anything we change will change them all at once. So that way we're maintaining the standard. So from there, under material, we can select timber, and there we go. See, that's what I was after. It changes them all at once. So if you have, hundreds of markups that you need to go through and correct, you can do so with your data and your markups list and fixing them all up. That doesn't change the fact that our tool chests are still wrong, though. We've just corrected all the drawings, all the markups in the drawing. So we've got to go to our tool chest, find timber flooring, allocate the timber material to that. So now every time I place that tool from the tool chest, and then see I select that markup and it highlights, we can see it's got the timber assigned to it already. We do the same for our tile flooring, but looking at it, for some reason, our second option doesn't exist. Maybe I didn't save it properly. Just go back and check what I did wrong. Manage columns, custom material, tile. Yeah, there it is. Modify. Take the subject off. And there we go. I should be able to change any of these now to both of them. There we go. Tile flooring. So anytime I place tile, there we go. That's places it without it. So then we do what we did the same thing before, right? So the markup we've already placed. So all of our tile flooring markups, change that material to tile, and then correct the tool itself. So under tile flooring, material, tile. There we go. Now you can see as well, anytime I place the tool from this tool chest, it updates the total here. So it's calculating and automatically updating the totals in the legend and the markups at the same time. So nice and easy, good for continuity there. Sweet, so that's actually sees us through to the end pretty much for that specific example. We've sort of seen from that how to set up, your tools to begin with, and then how to use those tools to actually create the content in your markups here and to create a legend. So then we've created this legend and we're getting the data we need out of it. The last thing, looking back actually now remembering, is just updating this legend to include those materials and the cost areas, because we want that information in our summary. So that last step is to select the legend itself and customize it in the properties panel. So editing columns here, the same thing is up here at the top bar as well. All the same customization options appear up here, but it's a bit more visible down here. We'll click edit column and turn on the two that we want, so material and cost. They'll now pop onto the end. Material is tile and the cost is 16.79. Sweet. Can do, yeah. With legends, I guess the last thing, if you want it to look nice, there are other customization options for visual stuff. So your margins, you can see you can increase the spacing. We'll drop that down again. Change the font size. The symbol size can increase if the symbols on the side are important to see. You can bump them up. There's table style. Maybe I want to do horizontal. maybe grid lines, turn that line width up so we can see those grid lines, and change it to the horizontal style, or just an outline. Fill it in with a light gray, perhaps, etc. You get the point. There's plenty you can do in there. You can customize most of these things, go through and change the colors till it sort of looks how you want it to look. Cool. That's our first topic covered, and probably our largest topic anyway. That was a bit of a longer walkthrough, but it's a good way to show you each of those steps. So you can then apply that logic to pretty much anything. So it doesn't have to just be takeoffs. You might be in the architectural field, for example, instead of estimating, and might want to use this tool for measuring compliance, doing that sort of stuff. So maybe we go to a different drawing, and I want to know that this fire hydrant isn't too far from the staircase, or this door isn't too far from the staircase, or something like that, right? So I want to measure the distance from here to the exit point, and automatically I'd like it to tell me if it's good to go or not. Yeah, a bit of a janky way to do it, but we might want to create a custom column for that and just add a new custom column and call that compliance. And it's going to be a calculation or formula. We're going to take the length, and we want to minus 10 meters from it. Get your units right, and then everything that's sort of negative is compliant. Everything that's not negative is over, right? So say it needs to be less than 10 meters, length minus 10,000 mils. When we select this markup, we can see that because it's positive, it's over, it's too far. It's just an example of how these sort of tools can be used in other areas really quickly. But for example, I can then place that tool and draw all the different areas that in the area in the building, and see how far past the minimum they are, and sort of get an average, that sort of thing. But yeah, plenty of different uses for these tools and calculations, but it's just a quick look at something else other than takeoffs. All right, back to the drawing board here. So we've covered that topic. Next one, using the markups this week. We sort of discussed this, but just to cover the final points and any other things I didn't cover, we can filter our data, we can export that data, and we can actually change the status in here to include more information specifically for project management. So I'll show you that side of it now. Sweet, just here. So our markups is at the bottom. If I go to the next page, this is sort of the example I'm going to use specifically for filtering. And again, these are tools placed from my tool chests, such as Engineer Review. So they have the subjects correct. It makes me able to do this. I can click filter list here and filter by subject. I want to turn on architect and see how that looks. You can see they all appear in red. Everything else gets grayed out. So I'm filtering the information that I want to see. So if you are project managing, it's a good way to fly through and review specific sets of work. I can use this as well to do both things at once. So I might want to filter by author. So if I turn on, my original account and see what was placed by me are these purple ones, I can see them sort of nice and easy. That was placed by my current account or by Alex. And let's say some other dude in the office with the same name as me. Filter by his markups, and I can see the ones that he placed. So you can filter by the user specifically. If you're managing staff, you can filter by the subject, the page that they're on, like anything, color, that sort of stuff. But that's what the filter use is useful for. We can filter multiple at once as well, just to show that architect and engineer, or architect and contract. So we've got both active, so it isn't restricted to one. And then in the same vein, we can filter by architect, and then only architectural comments by Alex. So yeah, you can get as granular as you want. It's a good way to review large sets of data. Within there then, the second piece is actually exporting this data. So the better example is the sort of takeoff side of it. If we click export here, or create a summary, turn the filter off, click the summary list, we can create CSV, XML, or PDF summaries. So the first one, a CSV summary, that's just going to create Excel data from our markups list information. Big confusing menu, but basically put columns, filter, and output. Under columns, you have the information that you're extracting, so all of your headings. For us, we want to extract a CSV export of the takeoff information, so we need material, we need cost, don't need space because it's empty, we don't need the layer, the color, status at the moment, don't need it, whatever, get rid of, all this stuff. And keep just what we need. So we're just getting an export of the materials here. Then under filter, this is filtering out the markups we're grabbing the information from. So the columns is the data attached to the markups. The filtering is the markups themselves and which ones we want. So we'll filter by subject and take just tile and timber flooring. We don't need the other comments. We just want the data from this stuff here. We can actually sort them as well at the bottom. So we want to sort them by their subject first, and then we want to sort them maybe by their area in like a descending order or an ascending order. So we start from, the largest areas going downwards, for example, but you can filter or sort them then by both of these. Then under output, so we can do most things. For a CSV, it's pretty simple. It's not much needed, except for maybe the bottom ones. You might want to include totals here instead of just including markups. That'll total everything instead of itemizing them. We'll keep it on markups to show that one, because totals is probably less to look at. It'll just be two Excel cells with totals in them. When we do markups, this is what we get. Pretty stock standard, but each thing, you can see it basically matches our markup. It's the same data, it's just in a new format. That's for each subject, the area of each markup, the material of each one, and then the cost total at the side. And then we can work off some of the magic here and calculate our totals. $800 job, done. High fives and bum pats all around. Everyone can go home, job's done. It's that easy. Same thing for PDF summary, all the exact same customization options on the side. One thing I will do is just change it to just the bottom two again. The only difference and what this one's useful for, so this is less for totals, this is actually more useful as a way to provide a list of sort of markups, so things that have changed in the project. So maybe instead we'll filter out everything else. We just want the comments here. We want all the changes that have been suggested by the architect, the contractor, the engineer, and we want to provide a summary of those changes for someone to review, for example. That's going to then output as a PDF. We want to select for this specific sort of task, append and hyperlink. If we don't select that, it'll just create a separate PDF, but this is handy to append it this way. So we'll click OK, let that generate. That's going to process every markup and summarize them in a more visual way into a sort of report. So at the end of our document, so we've got, if we just zoom all the way out, this is our whole PDF, our project at the top. We scroll down and these pages have now been added to the bottom. Oh, there's tons of our project. We zoom in. The use of this, for example, is to export this data that someone with Bluebeam can't see, or someone without Bluebeam can't see. Say I'm using Bluebeam and I have all these great tools and all this data, my markup system is all fun and games for me, but I need to share this document with someone that doesn't have Bluebeam. No dramas. Stick the PDF on there, append it, hyperlink it. Now that someone else, viewing this document can see all the same data we have in here. For example, like the data was placed, who placed the markup, the cost of material, anything that's actually created in there. And the best part, they might scroll through the changes here and they might be red penning, approving, denying, whatever. But while they're viewing it, they can sort of see, oh, this markup's interesting. It was placed at this time. I have an issue with it, whatever. Where is it? Instead of combing through the drawing to find it, you can click directly on the image and it, boom, will take you to where that markup is on the drawing. So they might be, oh, I can't find where that is. No dramas. It's hyperlinked for you. There you go, same thing here. Oh, what this measurement's in inches, that's making me angry. Bang, found it. while I'm looking at it, because it is bothering me, how do we fix that? We can do it in the markups list. So filtering probably by type. We want to filter anything that's measuring in a way. It's probably the best way to get to that data the best way we can. I'll turn on my column for length. And then I'll filter by length. And filter out the list. So I don't want my areas right now. I don't need them. I just want all of these comments here. So I'm filtering by architect or contract engineer. Now I can grab all these measurements and have them all selected. I can actually change them now. So I've got that open, go to my units at the top, length, instead of feet, inches, I want millimeters. Bang, so let's fix that. There we go, a bit of a practical example of how to use the markup list in that way. So, instead of going through and clicking on each one or, doing them group by group, we can select them all at once by using that filtering tool. We filtered out the ones that we wanted to change, filtered them by length so they would all appear at the top first, and then we went through and selected them all, changed them. Yeah, nice and easy. It's the good thing about the markups list, you can repair any sort of dodgies that have been made. So did I miss anything? Statuses, I did miss statuses. So just quickly back in here. Statuses are another way, and this is a more of a project management tool for your markups. So it also works really well with filtering in conjunction. So I have an existing sort of set of statuses. If we click on the status menu here and click manage statuses, we can see the ones that exist. So they are basically just text headings, and that's about it. But they are powerful tools if used correctly. So we can add our own, for example, and say this is an approvals process. I can then add the statuses I want to them. So I want approved as an option. I want denied as an option. And maybe ready for review. So that way, for myself, I am, the original drafty, bottom of the bin dude that doesn't have the knowledge to approve stuff. So I'm going to select all my markups that I've done. Maybe I'll filter by, by date or filter by author and just select my own work. Let's say just filter by, just me. It's all just by me, so no surprise, it's all still highlighted. But just to show the process, I'm turning on the specific type of markups I want and all of mine, but under my name. And then I'll Control A, click anywhere in the markups list, Control A. That'll select them all. I can then right click on the whole markups list and set status. So I'm going to set these under approvals to ready for review. So every markup that I've placed now that's needs to be reviewed, I click on any markup here, review, current ready for review status. I'll click on this one, ready for review. So they're all set to a certain status now. That helps me. So when I put my different hat on and come in as the project manager, I can clear all these filters. I want to filter it by the status now. So I want to filter things that I need to do. So I need to do stuff that needs to be reviewed. I'm going to go through and start approving and denying certain markups. And this is obviously just a gibberish example, but it just shows how the tool works rather than anything specific. But this number 7, I don't agree with it. I'm going to right click on that one and say that one is denied. But see how it goes gray because I'm already filtering. I can then maybe go through and say, oh, this, holding shift and just click multiple. Yep, right click status, those are good, approved. They go gray. Now my work here is done. I can move on confident that I've done everything. I might even just be like, oh yeah, this whole thing, shift click or shift click and drag to select all these markups. Right click, approvals, yep, done, approved. One by one. So you easily just go through, chuck them all on. You can do them one by one again, right click status. Yeah, that one's good, approved, it goes gray. So now I know it's dealt with. You can sort of see that process worked really well. From a management perspective, I'm not going to miss anything that needs to be done. because it's all going to be perfectly sort of set. We can then export this data as well. So if we wanted to do the same thing, we can export that data to Excel and create a big graph showing the percentage of markups that have been complete or something. That's, you know, the Excel side of the house, but just as an example. So you can see how those statuses work. They're a pretty handy tool for reviewing and managing your product. Sweet. We're getting close to the end, but I've got one more topic, I think. We'll see how we go for 3 sort of things. They should be quick. I'll do them pretty quick for you. These ones are more handy tips and tricks rather than difficult processes anyway. So the first one, I'll go to this other data set of mine. It's a bit more, a bit of a larger one, not a residential set. Let's go to where I have my pre-saved on. So spaces, this is a spaces example. This is all in the same vein as your markups list. It's just another column we can work with and more data we can work with. We want to use these spaces to sort of track information a bit better. So how they work, spaces is a column on the side here. So we open this one up. There they all are, the ones I've pre-made. So when I select these ones on this plan, there are zones already created. And there's the stairwell, there's the utilities room, and there's these 4 rooms on the side. So that's pre-made with the zones in there. To make those zones, it's simple. It's just a matter of, wow, that's not what I wanted to do. Where was I? Here we are. On a blank page, say we're doing the same process again. It's just a matter of clicking at the top of your spaces panel here, adding space, and then you draw where you want it to be. And that's going to be example. So there you go. They are filtered by the page they're on. So you can see when I drop this drop-down box, these are just the sheet names. Open this one up. These are all the spaces on that sheet, and these are all the spaces on the other one. That's just an example how easy as to draw a zone in. We're going to go back to the one I've pre-made just to show them how they work. That's on this page. So the zones are all set up, ready to go. If I go to my tool chest and I start placing columns sort of everywhere, you know, from my tool chest, I start measuring stuff. Put a, you know, big information sign on there. Doesn't really matter. Measure, you know, the floor area in this space over here. Basically, any markup. This is the point I'm getting at, and then that'll be tracked. So if I stop filtering by author and filter by subject, let's go by date. So everything that I've placed most recently. So the tile flooring, the emergency phone, the section. You can see under space, it tells me which zone that markup's placed in. So that's actually really handy in a lot of different cases. So this example is probably a good one in that I could be placing certain items, like maybe I want to place furniture in. Go to my detailed view. I want to place, you know, tons of sinks, put my reuse tool on because I'm doing lots of work here. I've got all these sinks going in. I've got all these cooktops that need to be placed in this room. And then because they're being tracked by zone, I can use those zones for my data at the end of the day. So another example, you could use a zone to cover an entire sheet of the floor that they're on. So if we go back to our previous example, here's another way that can be used. And you don't have to have the zones set up first. You can do them at the end as well, like we're going to do now. We're going to create new spaces on this one. So I'm going to cover the top of the half of this drawing and just call it first floor. Cover the bottom half of this drawing, call it ground floor. And now that that is set up, within here, I can click on my previous examples. Yeah, not what I want to do. How do I get to what I want? Filter it out. I don't want to see anything except for my markups right now. Clear that. Tile, timber flooring. Cool. So now we've got our markups, only what we wanted to actually pay attention to right now. Under space, it's actually showing me ground floor and first floor as well now. So you can see that basically I'm using it to then get more information out of my export. I'm able to split that data up and say, okay, now there's, you know, 3 markups that are on the ground floor and there's X amount on that level or in that building, etc. So yeah, just a handy way to break up that information, gives you more data you can use. That's spaces. So the next one is exporting, having a blank. PowerPoint, save me. Tables, yep, converting tables. That's what I was after. So in here, this is the last thing we'll have time to cover. The other example isn't that cool anyway. Go back to the page I had preset. I used the thing to find it. Cool. Schedule converter. Cool. There we go. So this is an example we want to use. This is a table, and say this data, we actually want this in Excel. I'm not going to sit here and copy paste all this information over to use it, right? So just a handy thing to know, it's actually there under File and Export. We can export an Excel workbook, but we can actually export that by page region as well. So not just the entire document or anything for that. We can specify specific little areas. That's under File, Export, Excel workbook page region. You can select that whole thing, and I'll actually only export that. Chuck it on my desktop so I can delete it later. Save that somewhere. Bada bing. There she is in all her glory, a full Excel sheet. You ripper. Pretty cool, but that's like really handy. It actually does come across nice and neat 90% of the time. That way now I've got that schedule I can use anywhere. I can estimate off that. What was the last thing I was going to do? Visual search. Okay, I'll cover it quickly. It won't take too long. So visual search. Yeah, with our tools, obviously we have our count tool on the side. I can go through here like a absolute loser and click on every single light and count how many lights are in the project with my count tool. So in this room, there's 8. That sucks. I'm not doing that. I've got Bluebeam. I don't sit around doing silly work like that anymore. Go to our search side, visual search at the top. So that's visual. This is text. You can search for text like any PDF, but visual is the cool one. We'll click get rectangle. And let's say we want to do, let's start with maybe these. We want to know how many of these are in the project. Just click and drag our box over that area. It'll appear at the top. We'll search for them on the current page. You can do multiple PDFs at once even. I can do a whole folder and search for the symbol in the whole folder. I just want how many are on this page. And I'll click search. That is then going to go through and find them. You can see I've got the preview on the side. Shrink this so I can see. And it's gone through, and every time I click on one, it highlights. So this is the one we're looking at in this example. That's that one there. That's that one. It's found everywhere that appears. Even if it's, even if it's behind a light, it's able to figure out that that's the same symbol we're looking for. But yeah, this one has like markups really close to it, but it's still able to detect the ones we want. So pretty sweet. At the top, what do we do with this? Click on the activate button. We want to apply a count measurement to all that are checked and click the tick. Hang on, made a mistake. We've got to click on this first. So this is select all. You can then select them all, and maybe if there is a false positive somewhere, you can turn it off, but these are all correct, so no worries. Now that I've clicked select all on the side first, then I can run that process and apply a count. So there we go. Let's put a red tick over every single one of those ceiling access symbols or whatever they are. Return air grills, apparently. So sweet, but yeah, that's how you can use that. So that's getting data in a different way as opposed to measuring it. That's doing a count of something that's on the drawing. Cool, 55 minutes, bang on, no worries. Thanks for joining me. Let's go back to my my PowerPoint. Get my closing off page up. Where are we? There we go. Got there in the end. Any questions from that? I'm sticking around for like 5 or 10 minutes, but that covers all the content I had for you. Really hope that was useful. The video will be on our YouTube channel, Cloud A2K, or the YouTube channel, Cloud A2K, along with all the other previous webinars if you are curious to have a look at any of those. But that's all I've got. So please, any questions, I'm here. But other than that, that's all I've got for you. So thanks for attending.